Going from 30% body fat to 10% body fat in only 5 months sounds crazy, but it is actually possible. Here's how I would make it happen and exactly what you need to track in order to keep pace. Okay, so first let's talk about how realistic it is. That's about 1% of your body weight. That's not about, it is 1% of your body weight per week, which is realistic. I want to be clear, it is on the higher end of realistic. About 0.5% to 1% is realistic. And anything beyond that, over the course of time, really takes its toll on a person. And eventually, I think from what I've seen with my clients and everything, they go the other way. Now, I've been a trainer for 10 years, and I've worked with hundreds of people, helped them lose thousands of pounds. And I have seen how 1% of body weight, or a little, even sometimes we sneak up a little bit higher, is completely possible. And so, this whole system is going to help you achieve that. Okay, so to go from 30%, I have my phone here, to go from 30% down to 10% is obviously a 20-week journey if you lose 1% per week. The example that I'm going to give here, and I'm going to kind of base everything off of this, but it's pretty easy, and I'm going to reference like how to adjust that if you're a little bit higher or lower. But for a 230-pound person at 30% body fat, that's roughly 70 pounds of body fat. 10% body fat without losing any muscle, and that's the key. That's going to be a huge theme of what we're talking about here. There's more to it, obviously, with the fat loss side of things. But without losing any pounds of muscle, I cannot talk, is 18 pounds of fat by the end of your journey. To be 10% body fat, it's surprising how little body fat's actually still remaining on you. So that's only 18 pounds of fat. So that's 52 pounds lost, roughly. In that example, it's 52 pounds lost. So if you're heavier, that'll obviously be more calories. I'm going to teach you how to switch that calorie deficit, and how to do that. It's kind of tricky, but it's okay. We'll get there. All right. So the key is keeping your muscle. That is something that is so important. And a lot of people when they're losing weight, from what I hear with my clients, a lot of my clients will come to me and it just sounds like they don't care. They just want to lose weight. They don't care what it is. They just want to be smaller. And I'm telling you, by the end of a weight loss journey, a lot of people wish that they had their muscle. For me personally, as I have been, I think, unlocking like a new point in my career where I've been able to help people even more, I've gotten a lot better. For me, it has been focusing on the lifting side of things. Now, I'm a huge fan of cardio and diet. We still do those things, of course. But now I have more of an emphasis on my clients lifting and lifting the right way and lifting hard in order to not only keep their muscle, but probably if you're new to this, you will build muscle. Now, the weight on the scale, that does cause the weight to drop a little bit slower. Just a little bit. It's not by very much. But you will have tremendous shape by the end of that journey. And so for me personally, I have found that I am just really enjoying the way my body looks as I'm losing body fat. I'm not ending up skinny fat, not like, well, I'm definitely smaller, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing. I like what I see a lot sooner, and I promise for you, it might be the exact same thing. Now, the reason that it's so important to keep your muscle is because losing muscle will almost guarantee weight regain. By the end of a fat loss journey, let's say that a person has lost, 70 pounds, and they lost some muscle. First, in this example that I gave, they would not be 10% body fat. They would still be higher percent body fat. They just lost 20% of their weight. But if you need it all to be body fat in order to be an actual 10% body fat. So, that's the first thing, is that your goal is going to have to be lower if you're also losing muscle, which sucks. You don't want to diet, longer if you don't have to. Second, though, is your metabolism. I know, some clients have refused to listen to me in the past, and I feel bad. I try to talk them out of it, but they insist on having these astronomical deficits, calorie deficits, and they certainly lose weight. But by the end, they don't have a whole lot of shape. They're miserable. And they still have body fat to lose. They have to go a lot further than they thought because they lost some of that muscle, but their metabolism is really slow. So now they either have to eat like a bird, continuing eating like a bird in order to stay that weight. Ozempic and everything is relatively new, but at least in popular mainstream, use of it. So they're either going to have to start that or something because now they have to eat even less in order to lose even less. And it's just this cycle because their metabolism was hurt throughout maybe not hurt, like permanently hurt, but their current state of things, they just don't have enough muscle. Now with time, they will regain that muscle. And usually a person reverts to eating more, and through the activities of daily life, they will gain that muscle back. And so it's not like, they've lost their muscle and that's it. But they won't like that end result. and it's going to take a lot longer. They're going to have to lose more body fat. And then if they do it really smart without, I'm sure that many of you have experienced that by the time you reach your end goal, you're like ravenous with hunger. And so to avoid all that, we really need to focus on keeping our muscle. Okay, so before we figure out your deficit, you got to be tracking certain things in order to really be able to figure out what deficit you need. So let's talk about that real quick. What things are you going to track? There's going to be 4 things that I'm really going to emphasize a person wants to track. You can track more, of course, but number 1 is going to be your weight. I know that's kind of obvious, but some people, they don't want to step on the scale, and I totally get it. I personally have been there where I'm fearful of what the scale is going to say whenever I step on. I've been working really hard. If it doesn't say the right thing, it's going to ruin my morning and my day. I totally understand that. But without proper tracking of the weight, and I'm talking daily weigh-ins tracked on an app so that it has a graph, not just in a log book or something, not just looking at it and seeing what my weight is, but actual graph. It helps a lot to see what the pattern of weigh-ins are. Any individual weigh-in, whether high or low, is false. Almost guaranteed it is going to be a false weigh-in, meaning something with your body water is off, either high or low. So if you take an all-time low weight, you probably aren't that weight. And if you've taken a 3-pound spike, you probably did not gain any body fat at all if you're remotely on your game between yesterday and today. It's just a spike, up or down, a spike or a dip. And so the pattern of weigh-ins, if we see that it goes up, down, up, down, up, down. Actually, here, I can draw this out for you real quick. So I know this is obvious, but I'm going to point out some things on this graph. As you can see, oh my gosh, the glare. I've always had that problem with the glare. As you can see, the weigh-ins are up and down, and it doesn't really help to take your weight every once in a while. And, this dip right here, you think, oh my gosh, I'm losing so much weight, but really that was just a dip. And that spike right there, oh my gosh, the glare is horrible, I'm sorry. But that spike right there is going to make a person think they're wasting their time. But if you see the pattern is down. And the pattern is what really matters. And again, I know this is obvious, but a lot of people, they'll take this spike over here and be like, oh my, I'm wasting my time. I'm not doing anything right. When in reality, if they just would have kept taking their weight, they would have been fine to see that, oh, they are indeed on the way down. So tracking your weight is so important. It also helps us make adjustments, and we're going to talk about that at the kind of towards almost, I'm looking at my list now, almost at the very end. We're going to talk about how to adjust it based off of what's coming in on those weights. You can't adjust it off a single weigh-in, if that hasn't been obvious. You have to adjust it after like 2 weeks of weigh-ins. That's what's very important. Okay, so the second thing that you're going to want to track is going to be calories and protein. Now, you don't have to track calories forever, but I really recommend to on this weight loss journey, the entire time that you're on the weight loss journey at the very least. So even 2 weeks of weight tracking will kind of tell you what might be worth it in terms of your calories that you need or that you think that you're eating, and what might be not so worth it. There's been numerous studies done, but one study that I'm thinking of, people who reported eating very few calories, 1,200 or less calories, typically, even though they knew people were going to be looking at the calories that they consumed and checking in on it, even with that knowledge, which would naturally make them more accurate, they were still off by 55%, 45 or 55% for their calorie intake, and the other one, 45 or 55% on their calorie expenditure and how much they thought they were moving. So we tend to just be bad at these things, at estimating things. So at least tracking your calories for 2 weeks will expose what do I want to eat more of, what do I want to eat less of. But one thing that I really like about tracking your calories for my clients, I train clients, and I remember these several people come to mind. But when they feel bad about, Aaron, I ate some pizza and whatever, and I'm like, okay, well, how much did you eat? And we'll log it and we'll look at it. And of course they didn't log that, and they felt horrible about it. They might have eaten half a pizza. And after I log it, I'm just making this up, but there's plenty of stories just like this. After they log it, I'll show them, okay, yeah, you were 1,000 calories over for the day, but you were already in a 700 calorie deficit is what we were aiming for. Let's hypothetically just say that's what we were aiming for. I'm like, so you were 300 calories over your break-even point for the day, and 300 divided by 3,500, whatever that ends up being, that's how much fat that you probably gained yesterday. Plus, we're working out, so could your body have used some of that to build a little bit of muscle? Yeah, probably. And then could it have used the others to fill in muscle glycogen that you've been depleted? Yeah, so you might have not gained any fat. And whenever I tell them that, because of the food log, it helps them it helps their heart. You know, you might relate to this. It hurts sometimes whenever you feel like a failure and oh my gosh, I'm going to fail again. You're not going to fail again. You can do this. But the food log helps you, you know, keeps you from jumping off the ledge, so to speak, where you just give up and quit everything. Okay, so the other side of that is going to be tracking the protein. Now that's going to be super important because you want to get roughly 1 gram per pound of body weight in terms of protein, and tracking it is the only way to know that you're actually doing that. So if you're tracking your calories, you're going to have your protein. Now I have a recipe book. If you are interested in this recipe book, it's free. Find a delicious recipe, super high protein. I love it. It's meal prep type sizes as well. So if that helps you, you know, it'll prep 8, 9, 7, sometimes meals, sometimes 10 or 11 meals. So if you want that, find me on Instagram, Aaron Trainer Fit, or Aaron Trainer Fitness on Instagram. I'll send that over to you, okay? Just DM me or something. But in order to, you know, whenever you're tracking your calories, you're going to be tracking your protein. Roughly trying to get 1 gram per pound of body weight is going to lead you to sparing your muscle, which goes back to the very beginning. And I know I'm like beating this dead horse, but you have to spare your muscle mass, or you're not going to like your metabolism. It's going to be hard to keep up with it, and you're probably at the end not going to enjoy the result. And so you got to be getting enough protein. Plus, there's always the added effect of the more protein you eat, I mean, to a certain extent, the more calories that you burn completely for free. You can only use about 75% of the calories you take in from protein because it takes the other 20 or 25 to 30% to digest that protein. So, you know, 100 calories comes in and 30 of it that is processed is used to digest the other 70. And so you get free calorie burn. So it helps you be in a larger deficit. That's one way, you know, increasing your steps, which is what we're going to talk about next. Increasing your steps in your workouts, decreasing your calories, and also increasing your protein is a way of increasing calorie burn. That's what kind of the total that goes into the equation of how much you're burning. And that's what relates to your calorie deficit at the end, where we're going to figure out what your deficit should be. Now, the next thing, I already brought it up a little bit, is going to be steps. And that is just to make sure. It's not that I personally don't believe that steps are like the holy grail of fat loss. You'll sometimes see where trainers and everything emphasize, you know, like steps is the way of losing weight. I'm a bigger believer in cardio, but I still really enjoy steps as a gauge of how active you are. As you burn more calories, as you work out harder, as you get deeper into this deficit, or you know, not a bigger deficit, but as you get deeper into the diet and the cut down to 10%, there probably is going to be a subconscious, you're not even going to realize it, temptation to move a little bit less. And if you're moving less, then your calories that you expend go down, and therefore you're no longer in as big of a deficit. If you want to stay on pace, you're going to have to make sure that your movement is roughly the same every day. So how I do it with my clients is, if you were walking like 7,000 steps a day, add a little bit to that, 8,000. If the weight loss slows, add a little bit to that, whatever. And then you just try to keep it consistent. It's not really about getting more. Like I get 14 to 16 every single day just because I'm super active and I'm at the gym all the time, training clients and everything. But you want to keep it consistent. You don't want it to drop off where, oh, I used to get 14,000. Now I'm trending towards 9,000. 5,000 steps a day, that's a huge difference. And it's because you're tired, you're dieting, you know? And so we got to be cognizant of that. Number 4, and this is going to sound, you're going to be like, stupid, dumb, whatever. This is so important for keeping your muscle. And I'm going to directly relate this. Am I cardio? Actually, I guess I'll just do it now. Is your workouts. Oh yeah, it's the next point. So I'm going to do these two together. So tracking your workouts, specifically the lifts that you're doing in the gym. So I am an online personal trainer as well as an in-person, but an online personal trainer. If you need any help with this, let me know. I can kind of guide you if online personal training might be right for you. But as you're lifting, you want to make sure that those lifts are at least staying the same. If you're new to this, let's say you're doing, you know, bicep curls at 10 pounds, you want to grow to 12 pounds and then 15 pounds and then eventually 20 pounds. It's called progressive overload. You want to be overloading your muscles progressively. You want everything to be getting harder and getting stronger in certain rep ranges. So if you do 10 to 12 reps for 100 pounds, 10 to 12 reps, 3 sets, you want it to be, 115 pounds at least, especially as a beginner. You want that to grow pretty quick for 10 to 12 reps for 3 sets. You know, and there's more to it, but that's the basics of it. If you just did what I said right there, you'd be fine. So, you know, where you did three sets where you grew into a different weight within the same rep range. That's progressive overload. And that's essential to, number 1, recomping. So something that's really cool here is you can get from 30% to 10%. And I should have said this at the beginning, without actually losing that much weight. Now, yes, you'll lose a ton of weight because I think at the beginning what I say was 52 pounds. But you might end up only losing 40 pounds and have gained, well, you lost 52 pounds of fat, but you'll have gained 12 pounds of muscle. You will look so much better by the end. So we can take this phenomenon that I'm talking about of keeping your muscle and feeling feeling good about how you look at the end, and we can like 10x it. 12 pounds of muscle, you will look different. You will look great. And exposing all of that at the end is so fun. So you got to be tracking your lifts. You want to keep full range of motion typically. There's more to that, but for now, I'll just say full range of motion, good control of the weight, up and down. And as long as those things are in place and there's no pain or whatever, pushing for a little bit more. Because if you see that you're getting stronger or at least staying the same, let's say you got 12 reps at 100 pounds, whatever the exercise is, and for 3 months you're getting 12 reps at 100 pounds, that's okay. I would rather see it going up, but that's also not a bad thing, especially late into a diet. You might just, all you can hope for is to break even. But if you're breaking even, you're keeping your muscle, and that's what is key. I gotta make sure you're keeping your muscle. I kind of feel like I'm coaching you at this point. And so my clients mean a lot to me, like a lot, probably too much. I literally lose sleep over it sometimes. And so I kind of feel like I'm talking to you like that. And so I don't mean to talk at you, but I want this for you. You can do this. Okay, so now I'm going to be holding my phone again. So let's figure out your deficit. This is going to be a guide. So you're going to have to plug in these numbers yourself. But start with the TDEE calculator, Total Daily Energy Expenditure calculator online. It's just an estimate, but it'll give you a good starting point. If you're close to the 220, 250-ish, I think that's my average viewer. If you're close-ish there, then I would subtract out 1,250 calories from your deficit, because you're going to need to lose more than 2 pounds a week in order to keep up pace with this 5-month timeline. But remember this. It doesn't matter. If it takes you 7 months, if it takes you a year, you are going to love the outcome. If you follow this guide, shoot for 5 months, go for it. I'm not saying you can't do it. Especially with my help, like if you want trainer's help or whatever, you could do this. But what if you don't? Who cares? You will get there. You got this. So sorry, I'm not trying to be too hoorah, but so subtract out 1,250 calories from your maintenance. And then if you are less than that, let's say you're, female and you're 160 trying to get to, 180 and you're small, I don't know, whatever, then I would subtract out roughly 1,000. If you are above 280, let's say in the 300s, 295, 350, maybe even subtract out 1,500. It's not going to kill you to short term try to go 1,500 lower than your maintenance. And the total daily energy expenditure, I should bring this up. You're going to see it says BMR, basal metabolic rate. You don't subtract out 1,500 or 1,000, whatever from that. If you subtract out 1,500 from your basal metabolic rate, you'll be eating 600, 700 calories. If you have a lot of weight to lose, your basal metabolic rate is just the amount of energy that you're going to be burning while sitting on the couch. But if you have a lot of weight to lose and you're carrying that around all day, you can probably attest to this if this is you. It's hard. It's not easy. And people who don't have all that weight to lose don't understand. It is very difficult. Just to go up the stairs, is 10 times more difficult. And so you're burning a whole lot more calories. And so you need to take your total daily energy expenditure number. If your basal metabolic rate's 2,000, you have a lot of weight to lose, you'll probably be close to 4,000 daily energy that you're burning. So if you subtract out, let's say 1,000 from that, you're still eating 3,000 calories. 1,250, you're still eating 2,750 calories. So that's very manageable. And so that is where I would go. Now, how do we adjust this? Probably the most important part of the video. If you're still here, congratulations. This is it. Now I'm going to be reading off my notes. Sorry. So lower volume on lifting in general. This isn't an adjustment, but just in general over this time. Yes, building muscle and keeping muscle is important, but more volume doesn't necessarily lead to those two things. Volume meaning 6 sets per workout on one body group. Body group? Body part. One muscle group. So lower volume. I would say for your chest and back, you're probably looking at doing 3 sets on your chest, twice a week. So something like that, lower volume on your chest and back. On your legs, you could get away if they're hard sets, you could get away with 2 sets, big muscle groups, you work really, really hard, 2 sets. Getting close to failure. I have other videos on this that are like vlog style where I actually show you what close to failure looks like. I think it's in the emotional eating video. I have a set that I'm doing that shows you what close to failure looks like. It's surprisingly difficult. So let's talk about step count increases. Well, I'll kind of combine these: step count, cardio, protein, and calories. Yeah, we'll just combine them all. So the 4 things that you're tracking, your workouts don't change. That's the one thing that no matter what doesn't change. You're just trying to do the best you can, at least keeping your weights. Now, if your weights are dropping and you're like, I'm getting weaker, what's going on? Then you're losing weight too fast. And I'm sorry, you gotta add calories. You have to. I'm telling you, you don't want to lose your muscle. Okay. If I haven't made that clear yet. So track your workouts. Track your workouts. And if you see that it's going down, then, adjust your calories up. That'd be the only case you adjust something up away from the goal of what we're trying to do here, which is lose, 20% in 20 weeks. So if you see that your weight is flat, that's going to be common. Rarely is a person going to be going up in weight. So if, they might feel like they're going up, but if they just gave it time and did the pattern thing, like I told you earlier, then they're going to realize, oh, I'm not actually going up in weight. I'm just, flat or going down. So if you're flat, then we need bigger adjustments. You need increase on the step count. I do that just a little bit. I call it my dial system. At the end of this, I will put the video like here for you to click on. You can see the dial system that I use with my clients and how we tweak that in. But your step count, that video is more about like how to lose weight and actually keep it off. And it really plays into what I'm talking about here. I just go into more depth there. So if we tweak your step count up, let's say from 8,000 to 9,000, that'll give you a little bit extra calorie burn. Plus we're going to tweak your calories down. So let's say you're eating 2,000, now you're eating 1,900. So just 100 less calories per day. Then we're going to tweak your protein up. So instead of 35%, I might do like 38%, or, let's say you're at 200 grams of protein, 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. And I should mention that's your like ideal weight. So if you want to be like 180 pounds, you need 180 grams of protein. I always round that up to like 200. So let's say you're eating 200. I might bump that up to like 220 grams. Wait, 220? No, sorry, 210 grams. But just bump it up a little bit because you're going to get a little extra calorie burn by eating more by eating more protein. And then here's the big thing. You tweak your cardio. So I didn't exactly go into detail on how much cardio you want to be doing. Just pick something and do it. It doesn't matter. Let's say you do 2 days a week of 30 minutes. Now you could add in a third day a week, or you could do 2 days a week of 40 minutes, whatever. That's going to increase. Notice you have more steps every day. You dialed that up. You have less calories every day. You dialed that back. You have more calorie burn from protein because you dialed that up. And now you're going to have a little bit more calorie burn per week on a weekly basis from your cardio. And so those things, if you are flat, you just make little tweaks and you'll be going right down. Okay. Now let's say that you're going down, but it's not quite fast enough for the 5 months. I would argue, do you need to adjust anything? You're losing weight. I know this video is about 5 months, but what if 7 months happen? What if 8 months happen? What if a year happened? You're going to reach your goal. You're going to love it. But let's say you're like, yes, I really want to speed this up. So you would need like really small tweaks because you're not going to be, you might only even want to tweak one of these dials. I would keep your calories the same. That's the last ditch effort there's only so many times you can lower your calories. So I might increase your cardio and increase your steps and just leave it there. Leave the calories and the protein the same. And then if that happens again, then I might, okay, could I squeeze out more steps on a daily basis? Let's go ahead and tweak that again and then see where that gives you. And then whenever you're at like the end of the diet, that's when you're going to be doing the most steps because you made all these tweaks throughout the diet. That's whenever you're going to be doing your most cardio because, you might have added a day, added 5 minutes to each day, all that stuff. And now you're doing an hour 4 times a week, whereas you started with 2 days a week at 30 minutes or something. So you can see how this all starts to come together. So you're going to be doing the most steps per day. You're going to be doing the most cardio per week that you possibly can. Your weightlifting has always stayed the same. Let's say your protein is now a little bit higher. Instead of 200, now you're at 230 or something. And your calories are as low as they will be. And I don't like to do that, but we have to sometimes. And so let's say you're eating 1,800 calories a day. And even as a man, I could see that system by the end being something that's helpful. And then you need to learn how to transition into keeping your weight the same. So key, don't gain the weight back. That's what my dial system video is about. I'm going to leave that right here.